it does have some budget-ish parts, and I will show you those right now. Hello guitar fans, today we have for you the Yamaha Pacifica. This particular model has been out for quite a number of years now, even decades. And yeah, even today it's heralded as one of the best sort of budget guitars you can get. But is that actually true? Now I've been through a number of guitars. I've had the Les Paul, Special 2, etc. on this channel. Please do go and check those out if you want to as well. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll look at the Yamaha Pacifica because really it's supposed to be a really good guitar. I've spent quite a long time renovating this one, as you'll see by more videos on the channel. And this is now in great shape. But this particular one has been wasting away for the last sort of 20-25 years and really wasn't in good shape at all. But in terms of a guitar to start off on, or even as a sort of a budget one that you just want to sort of try and sort of have a bit of a muck about with, like test your skills as a bit of a project, it's a really, really nice guitar. I compare it most closely to my Squier Affinity Stratocaster, which has a much thinner neck, I have to say, than this one. This is slightly on the fatter neck variety, I would say. It's not really a fat neck. Here's the profile I'll show you. It's kind of slightly fatter than a modern C. So that's the first fret. So you can see it's got a nice sort of C which cups into your hand, and that's down towards the 12th fret, which is sort of, it does flatten out and sort of just widen out a bit. But it does feel really, really, really nice. And I actually found setting this guitar up, despite, again, this is an old Yamaha Pacifica, but obviously they sell these now in exactly the same way. They look exactly the same now. But it was super easy to set up. I did a lot of work to this. And in fact, setting up the intonation and all that stuff, wow, I couldn't have hoped for better. I really was very, very pleasantly surprised by this guitar. You're not going to have to spend ages mucking about with it. Now, all I would say is it is a cheaper end guitar, so it does play really well. It's Yamaha, so it's a really good quality, actually, really, really good stuff. It's got a few quirks to it, which I will point out, which is, for a start, on a Stratocaster, you might be used to having a volume and 2 tones. Well, as you can quite plainly see, there's only 1 tone knob. I don't think it really makes an awful lot of difference on this guitar. You can still dial in the tones you want. You still have the 5-way selector switch there. So again, it does sound really good. You can get your Jimi Hendrix, you can get your Stevie Ray Vaughan, all of that stuff out of these pickups should you want. And it does sound rather good. As I say though, it does have some budget-ish parts, and I will show you those right now because the first thing that you're going to notice is a rather thin tremolo block in the back, which it's okay. It absolutely does the job, but it is of a thinner variety. You know, in my Mexican Strat, for example, this is a pretty fat bad boy. In this, that's super skinny, and I was a bit like, oh, it's a bit of a shame. When I first took the back plate off, that made me cringe a bit. Having said that, it does work really well. It works really well, so it's not going to give you issues. The tremolo does work fine, and it's actually a good opportunity. The sun's shining very nicely at the moment. You can see that nice kind of slightly gloss finish on the neck. They actually have taken the time to put a finish on here, so it's not the sort of plain satin that you get on a Squier Affinity. The Squier Affinity is a nice guitar, but having said that, it doesn't really have much of a finish on the back, and I quite like to have a finish. It's something to grab hold of, and this one, although it's slightly glossy, it doesn't hinder your playing at all. You'll be able to play on this straight up and down with ease. It's not going to stop you sort of, it hasn't got that sticky feel that some Les Pauls have, which I really loathe with a passion. Now, the other thing to note on this guitar, in terms of the electronics, again, they sound good. It's not brilliantly shielded in there. So when you do play, you might find, certainly on some of these, that when you touch down the strings, you might get a bit of a clacking, sort of a noisy kind of sound to it, which I think comes from, obviously you've got single coil pickups in here. That's the starting block, but also inside here it's not shielded at all. There's no shielding in this guitar, which obviously leads to you couple that with single coils, no shielding, and you do get some noise. It does have the humbucker, but I'd say there's even still a bit of noise on the humbucker. So that's something that you might want to have a look at if you're thinking of one of these guitars. Just open this up, put some shielding in. The other thing is, which I kind of was a bit surprised, well, I want to say surprised about exactly, it is a budget guitar, but the pots are really, they're mini pots. And when I say mini pots, I mean they are proper mini. They are not big at all on this guitar. So they're not fat pots, they're not super high quality pots. But as I say, as a package, it really feels like such a nice guitar to play. It's so comfortable. It's a really lovely machine. So if you are, and obviously it's really beautiful. So if you were that bothered, you could do some of this, do a few upgrades on here. I'd also change these to sort of flat saddles, but that's just a personal bugbear of mine. You can see to actually get the saddles at the right height for me, how I like them, I've had to push the screws right up, which means that the action's really nice and it doesn't fret buzz. It's really good on that score. But these, it's not super comfortable on, I would say, to play in terms of resting your palming hand, your right hand, or your left hand if you're a left-handed player. So I would say consider flat saddles there. Consider fatter pots on these, and you're going to have to put shielding in, and you might have to do a fatter trem block. So it sounds like I'm giving this a bit of a negative write-up, frankly, as I'm talking about it, but I'm not. It actually comes together. It's a really nice guitar to play, and it sounds awesome. So despite the budgety bits, it is really, really good. I do really like this guitar. It does play really well. It sounds good. And the thing is, it's got that feel, which you can't buy that. It feels really nice. If you get a chance to try this, I'd really recommend you can go to your local guitar shop and give one of these a go. I would, versus any of the sort of Squires or anything else out there. Definitely give this a shot, because you might be pleasantly surprised. The other thing is on the nut end, the headstock end, this nut is blatantly plastic. You can see it's plastic. I mean, that is certainly no Graphtec nut or anything. And you can actually see here, if I can get in fairly close, the low E string is really sat on top of the nut rather than being sort of deep into it, which again is maybe not brilliant for your intonation and everything. I would personally think about sort of cutting the nut slot a bit deeper in there to give yourself a bit more wiggle room, and maybe, you know, be able to get the action a bit better, etc. Again though, on this guitar it's actually pretty good, so I haven't messed around with this, but you could do. The rest of the nut slots, they're okay. The truss rod has a nice little cover on it. That's okay. It keeps the dust from getting in there. It's maybe a little bit of an annoying part of it, because you've got to unscrew it every time you want to undo the truss rod, or you can leave that bare. It doesn't look super pretty though if you do, but hey, it's okay. Then the truss rod, from my experience, again, I've just tinkered with this and set it all up just recently, so it plays like butter. And the truss rod was very responsive, super easy to set up. So yeah, that's a good point. And the tuners are actually really good. They are just, you know, your basic tuners, not locking, nothing special about them, but they are functional, they are good, they hold tune. I was mucking about doing lots of tremolo weirdness, lots of bends, and they actually sound as though they kept the guitar in tune quite nicely, so I had no real issues with that. And obviously then you've got your Yamaha brand and all that business, so it's overall it is a pretty good guitar. I'd say for beginners and people who want to have a bit of a tinker around with guitar, who might, you know, if you've got a few spare bits lying about and you think to yourself, yeah, I want to have a bit of an experiment with the guitar, a bit of a play with it, and just a general sort of mosey inside to see if I can upgrade some bits, this is a nice guitar to have a bit of a play with. And it's really, I'd say it's really, really nice to play. To say, it's very, very different to a Mexican Strat, and it's very different to a Squire Strat. On both of the guitars, I find the neck to be a little bit thinner than this one, which really is one of the key elements. I find when playing any guitar, what's the neck like? How does it feel? This is kind of like I'd say sort of bordering on a medium C. Certainly not fat, but it's not super skinny. The other thing to mention is the weight of the guitar. It's actually, and I'll show you if I can here quickly, it should be in the region of, here we go, 6.9 pounds, which I think is about 3.2 kilograms. So again, it's not a very light, it's not a very heavy guitar, so it isn't going to break your back or anything. So yeah, overall a good guitar, well worth considering. Put it on your list, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.